Houston, we have go for main engine start. Begin final countdown. Roger that. Beginning countdown. T-minus 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And liftoff.
Ditching Suburbia is on a mission to help families leave traditional suburban lives in search of simpler living, closer family, richer education, and uncommon adventures. Find us on the web at ditchingsuburbia.com.
Hey folks, it's Michael Boink from Ditching Suburbia. On this episode of the Ditching Suburbia podcast, I'll be reading an essay entitled Our Faith Journey 2, Church Sampling and Disillusionment. This is the second in a series of articles exploring the impact that ditching the suburbs had on our church life. Read the backstory, our Church Journey 1, to get an idea of our church life before we became full-time travelers. Pre-trip expectations. As we hit the road full-time in RV, I wanted to be open to the unknown and the unexpected. I wanted to have no expectations so I wouldn't be disappointed if or when they didn't get fulfilled. And yet, I expected to encounter God in new ways and in new places. I knew that we'd get some of that by visiting national parks and other places where God's handiwork was displayed in nature. But I also hoped we'd experience God through the people we'd meet by visiting local churches as we traveled. Church sampling. Our first couple weeks on the road, we skipped church. A month in or so, we began to try and attend local churches. What denomination? We first had to decide what denominations we were willing to attend. And we settled on the Apostles' Creed as the deciding factor. If a church looked to believe that, then we could attend. Other differences from our own history and beliefs just weren't significant enough to worry about for one visit. Finding a local church. Being a web guy, I took to the internet first. Yeah. Church websites are horrible at answering the most basic of questions that a new visitor might have. Is the service casual or formal? Is it traditional or contemporary? When you say casual dress, do you mean leave the tie at home, or are flip-flops okay? I quickly gave up on that and started calling phone numbers. This approach was no better. I often got answering machines, or in one odd case, the number was answered with, hello? We never did find a reliable way to choose a local church. Sometimes we just picked one that was close to the campground. Sometimes we got a recommendation, and a few times we attended with a local friend. We visited Baptist, Southern Baptist, Bible Church, Lutheran, Methodist, non-denominational, RV park churches, and even national park services. Specific memories. A few church visiting experiences still stand out. Being way underdressed at a large formal church, and then the first order of worship was to have visitors stand up and identify yourselves so we can give you a packet of information. I also remember being 2/3 of an RV park church where the bingo caller on Saturday night was the pastor on Sunday morning. And he was better at bingo. I remember Ms. Boink being asked to play the piano and then having to wait until they could find the key to unlock the keyboard cover. At one point, we attended a downtown megachurch, and after singing with 1,000 people settling in for the message, the pastor arrived via a 40-foot-tall video screen. And I'm still not sure if he was live somewhere else or if he was pre-recorded earlier in the week. I remember getting the kids back from youth groups, and they were excited about some hamster races they'd had. And I asked, had you talked about Jesus or the Bible? No. I remember Miranda almost getting real wine during a Lutheran communion. And I remember experiencing Easter at a sunrise service on the rim of the Grand Canyon. Overall, though, most of the time our experiences visiting a local church were just awkward. We were always newcomers, not knowing the flow of the space or the service. We'd read "Visitors Welcome" on the sign, but then not feel it once inside. When we were asked about our story, some people got it, and other people just smiled and nodded politely while they mentally filed us under "on vacation" / "just visiting." We often found ourselves hearing Sermon 2 of a 5-part series, or getting a visiting pastor because the main pastor was on vacation. After the services, we felt ignored and passed by while people scurried out to their normal Sunday traditions. We came to realize we didn't want to invest too much in getting to know a church that we wouldn't be at next week, and they didn't want to invest too much in knowing us, knowing that we weren't going to be there. A friend commented on our frustration. He said, "It's not about going to church, it's about being part of a church." But how could we be part of a church if we were traveling full time? Other church attempts. We tried online church. We didn't like the topical how to improve your marriage type messages. They were just a repeat of what we'd heard in churches for years. We tried listening to the podcast of the sermons from our home church, but they were often over an hour in length, and we couldn't pay attention that long. And we tried creating our own services, and this felt awkward, contrived, and even more isolating. The disillusionment. It took a while, but I slowly came to realize this. Full-time travel and church life, as it exists in mainstream North America, were just not compatible. Churches want your ongoing attendance, commitment, you volunteering in some fashion, you active in small groups or Sunday school, and your ongoing tithe. This just doesn't work if you aren't there most of the time. It felt like either we had to give up full-time travel or church. And after much prayer and thinking, here's where I arrived. Is God the God of all people? Yes. Does all people include nomadic people? Yes. Are we the first nomadic people? Nope. Is God limited to achieving his purposes through churches? No. So if the issue isn't God or being nomadic, that left only one thing. It occurred to me that as much as we'd questioned the suburban life and why we were living it, we'd never question our church life in that same way. Questions about church. I started to ask questions like these. For as important as going to church seems to be, there's little in the Bible that looks like what I know as church. Why is that? Why do we have services with predefined content and order? Why is singing and music an acceptable form of corporate worship but not dance or artwork? Why do we have dedicated buildings? Why do we have paid professional pastors? Why do we sit in pews? Why does communion in the Bible look so much different than what we experience in church? What are we looking to get out of church, and what are we looking to put into church? Once I started asking those questions, once I started asking questions at all, they started coming fast and furious. And the answers? Part 3 of the series, we'll get into that, where I cover the books that tore down and rebuilt our understanding of church.
You've been listening to the Ditching Suburbia podcast. Ditching Suburbia helps common families create uncommon lives. Learn more at ditchingsuburbia.com.